Hello, everyone. This is Andres Restart. I am joined by my good friend Brandon. How you doing, buddy?
Good.
Very good. Glad to hear it. Everyone in the chat, let me know how everything is looking and sounding. Hopefully, everything is looking and running okay. But tonight we will continue our countdown towards the Nintendo
Yes.
Switch 2 Direct on April 2nd. Yes, Holden Vetados, this is a live show. Typically, we live stream on Tuesday nights. I am trying to do it a little bit more often. So
Mm,
I
yes.
haven't announced it yet. I guess I'm announcing it now.
Ooh.
The next live stream, the next planned live stream, because I don't know, let's say something crazy happens tomorrow and I feel like I should live stream, I will, but odds are nothing crazy will happen tomorrow. But I am planning a live stream on Thursday as well. Paul Gale's going to be on.
Nice.
Brandon,
Oh,
of course,
nice.
you're always welcome to join if you have the time. But yeah, so
See
we're
what's
gonna be doing more
happening.
live streams. As you guys have been seeing, I've been doing more community polls, different things, and of course the videos. And sometimes the videos will directly kind of count towards the countdown. No video today. By the time I kind of got around to figuring out what I was gonna do, it just seemed like by the time I would be finished, it would be too late. So I just decided to
Hmm.
restart or reset and like, all right, I'm gonna say this for tomorrow. Maybe we could start hitting a little bit more of an earlier schedule. And It might be the last day where there's not a dedicated video until I don't know how long. But we'll
Ooh.
see. We'll see. I mean, it kind of depends because news has been slow, so there's not always something to talk about. But
True.
I have a few ideas in mind for the next few days at least, and I'm sure something interesting will pop up before that point. But anyways, tonight what we're going to focus on is talking about Nintendo only caring about Switch 2 now. Like, is
Hmm.
that what's going on? Because it's now March 11th, the day after Mario Day. Less than 22 days remain. If we because we have the official time of the direct. Right? I think it's going to be in the morning on April 2nd.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're like 21 and a half days away from the big presentation, and we haven't gotten any Switch 1 announcements beyond Xenoblade Chronicles X. Like, yes, we
Right.
know Pokemon Legends EA, Pokemon Champions, and we have Metroid Prime 4, but Pokemon Champions doesn't even look like it's going to come out this year because they didn't give us a release date for that. Legends EA
Okay.
is coming out late into the year, and Metroid Prime 4 doesn't have a date yet. So we're in an interesting situation right now where for Switch 1, right? We're like there is no release dates for any first party Nintendo games outside of Legends EA, which doesn't even have a set release date yet technically.
No.
After Xenoblade Chronicles X, and so the picture that's being painted right now is that there isn't really that much support left for Switch 1. And that is not what we expected. Like, yes, I've been talking about for the last 2 years that it's clear that that we've been kind of heading in this direction, but I still sort of thought there would be perhaps a bit more support. And so my
Yeah.
brain is shifting a little bit in terms of my expectations, but I have an interesting idea. I kind of talked about it a little bit in yesterday's video, because I also think we have a little bit more reason to believe in my theory of Switch 2 launching on May 15th, as I also talked about yesterday. But we're going to be diving into
Oh,
that, all the
okay.
different angles. I don't know if you saw that yet, Brandon, but
No.
yeah, well, so I can talk about it here and fill people in who haven't caught that video yet. But it's just kind of interesting where we're at right now because Nintendo hasn't announced anything. They still can, right? Tomorrow they're like, hey, here's a partner showcase. Okay. And they're like, oh, yeah, here's Kirby Planet Robot. Like, they can drop these things at any
Yeah.
point.
Twitter
But
drops are they put so much randomness into the equation.
yeah, like, I mean, they could do it the week Xenoblade X comes out, and it would be like, why didn't you do this in February? Why didn't you do this earlier in March? And we're like, oh,
Yeah.
we didn't feel like it. Like,
And they do that sometimes. They
yeah,
make questionable Twitter drops where you're like, that should have just been in the recent direct, or there should have been a
yeah.
director,
I
whatever. But
think
it happens.
Yeah, I think part of it. I mean, I think there's a lot of variables that go into it. Like with when Nintendo makes certain announcements for certain things.
Oh
Sometimes
yeah.
maybe it is a mistake, right? It's hard for us to say, right? But I think maybe sometimes we put too much stock into it just makes sense now because nothing's happening now. They should do this now, right? Like sometimes
Yeah.
they will. I remember they released Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe in February of 2023, and then Metroid Prime Remastered was announced like it was shadow dropped, and it came out in the same month, like within a week or two, if I'm not mistaken. And then they also,
close.
and then what's also interesting about this is there's also the future redeemed DLC expansion story to Xenoblade Chronicles 3 that we all expected to come out after Tears of the Kingdom. Nintendo's like, nah, it's coming out 2 weeks before, right? And that's a lengthy adventure, right? That's like a 40 to 50 hour campaign. Like I finished it, but I had to work really hard to finish it by the time Tears of the Kingdom came out. Like, so I spent a good amount of time, and I finished it like literally right before it came out, or like the day it came out. So it was weird. Like I think a lot of people would have agreed, more than not. Like the majority of people would have agreed that they could have waited a little bit, or had released it sooner or something. So sometimes like what we think makes sense isn't what they think makes sense. And there's probably other variables that go into that, right? Like maybe sometimes some things aren't ready.
Things behind the scenes that we just have no idea about.
Yeah. So it can be tricky. But anyway, as things currently stand, though, it kind of looks like Nintendo doesn't care about Switch One as much as they once did. So we'll be diving further into that. But let's check in with the chat. Let's see how you all are doing. Me just scrolling through here. Yes, Chris Thorndike, we are 22 days left. Not everyone will survive. I hope we all make it. I really do. Man, if a wild Lugia appeared, that would be pretty scary.
Yeah.
Also beautiful, but yeah. Hello there, Cat Dad. Hello there, Harry Myers. Hello there, Pokemon fan. Neon C Ors. I probably got your name wrong, but hello. Exotic. Of course, they're only focusing on Switch 2. We shall see. I think
they're not really even focusing on Switch 2. That can be argued because they've said one thing. They've done one thing this year.
Yeah, Joy CJ, thank you for letting me know that everything looks and sounds good. I appreciate you. Thank you. Rico Lee, I am doing well. I believe Brandon also said he was doing well earlier, so I'll believe that.
Doing pretty good.
Yeah. Art Vandelay asked me, are you going to stream April 2nd in the evening? I am unsure. I'm definitely going to stream the presentation. There will definitely be a little bit of a post chat, but the thing is, when we get that April Direct, there's gonna be, I assume, dozens of games and the console itself, and so that's gonna be a lot of videos I'm gonna need to make, right? Like I'm gonna want to do a trailer analysis for whatever they show, right? If there's a Metroid Prime 4 trailer, there's gonna be a trailer analysis. If there's a new Mario Kart trailer analysis, 3D Mario trailer analysis. If they tease the next Zelda game, you for sure there's gonna be like 17 trailer analysis. Like I'm gonna do my initial like theory analysis videos for each one, right? That there may be graphics comparisons, like all that stuff. I'm gonna try and get out, as quickly as I can, but without like that. That's what I'm gonna try to do. And so, does that get in the way of me live streaming in the evening? I don't know.
Right.
But it is also gonna be one of those things where like there's gonna be so much excitement, so much hype that I may do an additional stream that same day. It's going to be a game time decision. It kind of depends on how things go, how I progress with whatever projects I think I need to make or put or do when that day comes. So we'll see. But there will definitely be I think once we get to that point, me live streaming more than once a week will probably become a more common thing. Like I've lately only been streaming once per week now for the most part, unless there's some sort of exceptions, because there's just not as much to talk about. Right. But come April 2nd, there's going to be a lot more to talk about. So I will probably be live streaming more. So yeah, that's all I can say on it for now. Cat Dad asked me, always stoked to catch you and Brandon's banter. Love your theory crafting and his technical take. Stoked for another live sesh. Awesome. Thank you, Cat Dad. I appreciate you. Thank you. Johnny Hernandez, what's up, bro? According to WCF Tech, the Nintendo Switch 2 new patent suggests voice chat operating system integration, proximity chat support in first-party titles. Yeah, we actually talked about this like a week ago.
Proximity chat is interesting.
Maybe I haven't talked about
I don't
it on
think
live,
we talked
but
about. I did not talk with you about proximity chat. I know that for a fact.
Well, I talked about it in a video. I'm trying to see when they put out the video. It wasn't that long ago. It's one of those things where sometimes their news gets out and then no one, I don't know, like, and then another venue reports it, and that's when like the masses catch on. But like we reported on it a while ago. Not that long ago, but it was a little bit. Okay. I say a little bit. I think it was 5 days ago.
You know,
this thing's fast though, right?
News goes fast.
Yeah.
In the age of the internet.
Yeah.
A day is forever. 5
now the thing is
a
though,
lifetime.
when I talked about it, I talked about it in conjunction with other things, right? So it's the video where I talked about that there's still more exciting Switch 2 features to be announced. And so I talked about a few things, and that was in there. I didn't think at the time it was worth its own video. However, after sitting on the idea, I think there will be an entire video dedicated to this party chat feature. But basically, Brandon, there's a patent that talks about essentially you're in a virtual area, right, a video game space, right?
Right.
And when you approach another area within that virtual space, a virtual microphone will enable itself. Proximity chat, right? Like, so,
right.
You know, basically, let's say you're playing. I mean, this kind of technology already exists. There are games already use it. I think Minecraft uses it, for example. I don't play Minecraft. I think I just saw that. But basically, you know, if you're playing a game with
for it, I don't know if it's officially supported or not.
That I'm unsure of. But the main point is that you'll be exploring a map, right? Let's try to think of an example of like a Nintendo game where it would kind of make sense for proximity chat. There's not that many Nintendo games where. Well, okay. Here's an idea. Let's say Animal Crossing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say it's Animal Crossing, and in this Animal Crossing map, there are 16 people playing.
Right.
But the voice chat doesn't work where all 16 people at a time hear each other. It's only within when you're within maybe a screen space, right? That you can start to hear each other.
You know a game that would work? I mean, it's not really a full game, I guess, but the tech demo.
100%. Yeah, I didn't talk about that because I'm not even allowed to share screenshots of it. I made a video with blurred screenshots, and that video was taken down.
Rough.
So, like, but yes, the Nintendo online playtest program game that Nintendo had a few people test during the holidays last year. That's the perfect example. It's kind of like this large map where you roam around building like basically like environments upwards, right? And you want to kind of extend the higher up you build up, the more you can kind of see. And there are other people there, right? It's kind of almost like a little bit of an MMO. If you're close enough to somebody else, you can communicate with each other. That would be the idea of a proximity chat. And I kind of imagine that a game like this would definitely want to use a feature, that kind of feature. So this is not a patent that's necessarily for Switch 2. It could be Switch 1. It may never even materialize, but I think it's probably going to materialize, right? I think it shows that Nintendo has an intent to create voice chat enabled games. Like, so I've seen some people talk about, that there is no patent for voice chat. Well, I mean, you need voice chat to have proximity chat. That's one leads to the other. So if Nintendo's experimenting or securing patents having to do with proximity chat, that means they are looking into different ideas surrounding voice chat. Nintendo's had voice chat in the past, but it's never really been integrated with the operating system. It's never been something that they've used really well for their games. For example, I think you can use like voice chat in Fortnite on Switch, right? But that's something that Epic Games put together for
Yes.
that situation. Nintendo, their solution for voice chat on Switch is the Nintendo Switch app, which worked for Splatoon 2, and everyone hated it.
Yeah, I
So
never even
yeah,
tried it because the setup was absolute insanity,
I
and
think
I
I
was just
tried it
like, nope,
once and it
nope.
was bad. And that's it. Yeah, I tried it out just to kind of see, right, out of curiosity. But
Yeah.
this was back in 2017. So yeah, I definitely think this is a thing. Like yes, it's only a patent. A patent doesn't really necessarily mean that it's gonna happen, but it's just one of those things where it's not that complicated. It's not that crazy.
No.
It makes sense. They should do this.
Yes.
So I definitely think they will. You think about how we keep hearing about different reports and rumors about different third party games being on the console, and I think it's important to kind of consider this because third-party games, these games, on PlayStation, Xbox, PC, it's expected that voice chat, party chat are just gonna be there. Like it's not like, oh wow, that's there. No, it's expected, and if it's not there, it's a real head scratcher. I mean, I don't even really I can't think of a game that doesn't have it, right? So yeah, it being on Nintendo, it's just literally them catching up to the modern standard. That said,
For
it's
sure.
focusing more on like party chat itself because that is a little bit of a different thing, right? So it's more than just being able to communicate with anyone you're in a lobby with, right? It's if you're in a space, as you approach them, being able to talk to them. I think that is a cool idea, maybe for like the next Animal Crossing game, right? Maybe for this playtest program game or even beyond. Like I start to think about games that have bigger, online spaces like that's interesting, right? Like what if we do have more MMO like experiences where we're exploring these larger maps and you can engage with others as you approach them? Like that's a cool
True.
thing. So I
I
love
think
the
there's all
concept
kinds
of
of
it.
ideas. I mean, we already look at different games that are available now that are really popular with proximity chat, like Phasmophobia, that's a horror game. And then, of course, Among Us, everybody knows about that one. And there's several other ones, but there's a lot of different genres that proximity chat is good for, in all kinds of different games. So I think that they could really, go wild and try out different types of things. And Nintendo does typically create new IPs and try out different things. They had like ARMS and different games like that on the Switch. I would love it if they had like an online proximity chat based game with a new IP.
Yeah.
Or
By
even
the
a
way, I
spin-off of
don't
an
expect
existing
this
IP.
to be on Switch 1, right? I think this is a
Probably
Switch
not.
2 thing. Just because if they haven't really been doing voice chat yet, that just like
Yeah.
on a game by game basis, they can technically make it work, right? I mean, I look at the playtest program game. That's not like a super in depth, complicated game. Like I don't think it's gonna be hard for the Switch hardware to run it. So I don't think there's too many limitations, right? Like they in theory they should be able to get it to run, right? Like if voice chat can work in Fortnite, they can get voice chat to work in this game too. So maybe like they go back and they make sure voice chat is in this one particular game for Switch, but on Switch 2 games in general are just gonna have voice chat. Like that's just
I could see proximity chat or voice chat for specific games on Switch if they're core to that game. But yeah, things like party chat or like system wide voice chat are definitely not gonna come back to Switch 1. I don't think. They're not gonna be backported from Switch
not
2
on a
to Switch
large
1.
scale. No. Yeah.
Not those system wide features.
No, but Switch 2 it may tie into that little C button thing that they obscured in the trailer. Yeah.
Guess we'll know in 22 days.
Yeah. Bushpig asked me, keen for the stream, knocked off night shift for the day here in Oz and keen to chill and watch. Glad you're here to watch. Exotic asks, imagine this feature being a thing with the new Mario Kart. See,
Chat for Mario Kart. I mean, it could be funny, like hearing somebody yell as you drive past them and hear their voice like fade in the
I'm
distance.
coming for you. Oh, actually, that'd be
That would
really
be hilarious.
All right. So, all right, hear me out. Right. So, let's say you're in first place, right? and you think you have a pretty good distance from
Right.
everyone else, right? But then someone gets to fourth place, right, and they're kind of getting closer, and then you hear, "I'm coming for you," and they get closer, and they're like, "I'm coming for you," and as they get closer, it's like even louder and louder. "I'm right behind you!" Like that would
Right.
be a pretty fun experience, actually.
They hit you with a shell, and then it's there from their perspective. They hear you just be like,
Yeah.
"No!"
And actually, on that note, I start to think about
So it
like
fades away in the
you
background.
mentioned like for like horror games, like that. It's
Yeah.
actually it's something really fun. Like the way,
Yeah.
basically the way I described it, but not in a funny way, but a scary way for a horror game.
Yes.
Like totally, or even like the next Luigi's Mansion, like in a party
Ooh.
mode. Like you could
Yeah.
do
Be
something
fun.
there. Yeah, this potential for sure. I love the idea.
Yeah. I have so many different ideas for it, but I don't want to stay on this topic for too long.
You're giving me more material for the eventual video I make on this subject, though.
Well, then Nintendo Land 2 with proximity chat.
I had that in mind, right? Because there's even
Yeah.
like a Luigi's Mansion minigame in Nintendo Land.
Yes.
So it makes some sense. It does. Velociraptor Ghost adds me, I had a dream last night that me, Samus, and an army of Mandarins and Republic Commandos were fighting an army of Zonai demons. It was crazy. That does sound crazy.
That sounds very crazy.
I hope those Mandarins, you know, I don't know. They're fruit, so I'm not sure. I hope they did well. Yeah, but I mean, you got Samus, so she could do a pretty good job. Johnny Hernandez. So there's a report the Xbox is going to release their handheld this year to compete with the Switch 2. I don't know if their intent is to like compete with Switch 2. I haven't read the article, but I did hear that Microsoft is planning a handheld to come out this year. You know, I think it's a good thing. I think competition is healthy.
Oh, for sure.
I'm at the same time I say it, I don't, for like the hardcore Nintendo fans that think, oh, is this going to impact anything? I don't really think it will.
No.
Because, like, I first off, I don't think this Xbox handheld is gonna like succeed. Like, I don't think it's gonna. Like, I hope it does well enough that they can kind of can persist, right?
Right.
But like, for example, people like to talk about how like a Steam Deck destroys the Switch. Like, not really. Like, it's such a small audience that uses Steam Deck in comparison to Switch.
Yeah.
It's a negligible amount, really. I mean, it's like what, like 5 million or something, which is that's a number.
Yeah,
it's a big number, but it's not
really
140 million, right? Approaching 150. Like it's not that. So you know, like it's not even 10%, right? It's not even 5%. Like
the only way you can really argue that it adds to competition is it adds to the growing pool of other handhelds that people want to buy and use. So it's
Sure.
not. I don't think that you can argue that any one of these is going to add any sort of real competition, but all of them combined start to add a little bit more.
I also feel like a lot of people who have these different handhelds also still have a Switch.
That may be the case. I don't know.
Yeah. Not I'm saying everyone. On that. All I'm saying is that, like, you know, listen, if there is ever a time that Nintendo should be worried about a competitive handheld, it would have been the PlayStation Portable. And here's what's funny about that generation, where Nintendo's handheld space had the most competition they ever had by far, and it's not even remotely close. That also ended up being Nintendo's most successful hardware sales generation of all time. The Nintendo DS has sold 154 million systems against the PSP. And the PSP sold well. The PSP did great. It's unfortunate that things fell way by the wayside with the Vita afterwards.
Sony has a history of being a bit like Google, where they come up with a product, barely support it, go, why isn't it doing well, and then cancel it before it has a chance.
Yeah.
They're a bit rough with that. It's unfortunate, because the Vita was a great system in terms of the hardware.
Oh, I think the thing is, it was such a great system, people would just like put whatever they want on there, but not buy real games.
That I don't know if that was a reason that it didn't do well, but it is a reason why it is still popular now instead of completely irrelevant.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy. Um, Velociraptor goes, sorry, I'm a Mandalorians, not Mandarins. Well, I mean,
Ah,
I like the
Mandalorians.
Mandarin idea, to be honest with you, because I'm hungry. But Mandalorians, that's definitely, that makes more sense thematically alongside Samus.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that, and they probably would put up a better fight against Zonai
A
demons than an
Metroid
army of
cross
Mandarins.
Star Wars would be pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, what's that? The Mandalorian. Like a lot of people have imagined that if there's ever like a Metroid like series following the format of the Mandalorian, I was about to say the Mandarin.
Yeah.
Um, they would work pretty well.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so.
All right. So let's talk about. I want to explain to you, Brandon, why I now believe. I mean, I already felt pretty good about the theory, but at the end of the day, it's a theory. I do not know for sure what is going to happen, right?
Right.
In fact, there are other reasons why I'm not. There are companies that have indicated behind the scenes that maybe they think June is when things are happening, right? There are rumors publicly that have indicated that June is when they think things are happening, and June is a fine month, but I really look at May as when it makes the most
Yes.
sense based off what Nintendo's been doing. Nintendo's unpredictable, so looking at what they're
It is
doing
true.
doesn't it's not always a recipe for success, but I do find that it does steer me in a somewhat correct direction a lot. So for I think you're already kind of up to speed on most of the theory, but I'll just kind of fill people in like
Okay.
for those who are unaware, right? There's several reasons why I think mid-May makes a lot of sense. So firstly, I don't remember the exact like numbers. I have a video dedicated to this, right? But if you look at the Nintendo Switch 1 trailer release date, which was October 20th, the amount of days between that and the Switch 1 presentation in January 2017, which I think was like the 13th, like the amount of time between
Yeah.
then and the amount of time between that presentation in January to the release on March 3rd of 2017, looking at at those numbers and that pace, and then comparing to what we've currently seen of Switch 2, where we had their reveal on January 16th of this year. We're going to get the big presentation on April 2nd. That's actually a slightly shorter turnaround from reveal to big presentation compared to Switch 1, which would then, assuming they follow a similar a pace like that, it would actually kind of line us up for a mid-May launch for Switch 2. But that's just kind of like the base thing, right? What's
Right.
also interesting is that when you go back to 2017, there were Switch 1 preview events, experience events, and they ended right before the Switch 1 launched. The Switch 2 experience events are starting immediately after the Switch 2 Direct in April, right? And they end in most of the markets early May. And there's this very interesting gap of time where there are no Switch 2 experience events in May. I think, and then
Right.
starting late May, early June, there are some experience events, but like in China, which is another market Nintendo tends to get to later on, right? Not like North America, Japan, Europe. Those
I think there's
markets
some in
are a different
Korea
timeline.
as well, or something.
Yeah, Korea and China. I think
Yeah.
the experience events happen a little bit later, right? But there's an interesting lapse of time for the initial markets Nintendo tends to hit, and so there's a thinking that similar to when the experience events ended for Switch 1, the console launched. In terms of the initial main markets, the Americas, Europe, Japan, these experience events end in early May, suggesting that right after this period of time where there are no experience events is maybe when Switch 2 launches. So that's the second reason why mid-May seems to make sense to me, right?
Yes.
But it goes a bit beyond that. So there is a game that is coming out on May 15th. It is Doom Dark Ages.
Yes.
That is a Microsoft published title. It is coming out for multiple platforms, but it is a Microsoft published title because Microsoft now owns Bethesda, just in case you guys didn't know. It's been that way for a few years now. But Microsoft still puts games on Nintendo. Like that relationship is healthier than ever. They have recently indicated that they even want to support the Switch too. Like there's no doubt, and there's literally a contractual agreement with the Call of Duty series. The Doom games, all of them came on Switch, even when it didn't really seem like they could. Like they put together, they got a separate team to port them over to Switch.
Yeah, I believe Panic Button did that.
Yes, you're right. It is Panic Button. So the notion that Doom is not coming to Switch, like it is going to come to Switch too, right? Like, for sure. The question is really a matter of when.
Right.
But what's interesting is they announced the game's releasing on May 15th, which is a Thursday. Thursday is when Nintendo releases their stuff. That's how it's been as of late over the last year or so.
Right.
Microsoft, though, just go look at Microsoft published titles. Lately, it's been Tuesdays. Last major, like for a while now, it's been Tuesdays. So randomly, this Microsoft title, out of all the other big Microsoft titles, this is the one that they're releasing on a Thursday when they've been doing Tuesdays for so long now. Thursday is a Nintendo day, right? And this is the one time that they have this exception, and it just so happens to fit into this window of time that matches up to the pace that I talked about earlier and the break and switch to experience events. But there's more. So Fantasy Life I is coming out May 21st. That's a Wednesday, right? So I'm not saying that like Switch 2 is coming on Wednesday, but it is a game that people have continuously theorized is tied to Switch 2, and it seemingly has been delayed several times because our expectations for when Switch 2 would be coming out have kind of taken longer and longer, and so its delays have coincidentally or perhaps not coincidentally been pushed back and back to seemingly now aligning with the Switch 2 launch, right? So if it comes out within a week of the Switch 2 launch, kind of there you go, right? I'll also mention some people think May 22nd makes sense. We'll speak more on that, but I'm honing in on May 15th because now, right, not only do we have the pattern, do we have the odd break, both of which kind of match up to how Nintendo handled things with Switch 1, but also we have this weird Microsoft game, but also because of Mario Day, yesterday, Nintendo or Lego announced that there is this Mario Kart Lego set that we already knew that it was coming, but they showed us that it's Mario. It's a Mario on a cart, right? Like you build that, and it's launching May 15th. And you might say, okay, that's kind of neat, but it's a Lego set. Why does that even matter? And my first thought is, oh, that's an interesting coincidence, right? Probably nothing more. But then you start thinking about it a little bit more, right? It's Mario Kart, not just any Mario Lego thing. It's Mario Kart, and currently, most of us believe Mario Kart's going to be a launch title because what's the one game they showed in the Switch 2 reveal trailer? Mario Kart. It might not be a launch title, right? But based off the evidence we have, it seems like the most likely bet. First game Nintendo showed in the first look trailer was Breath of the Wild. What was the launch title? Breath of the Wild. First game they showed in the OLED trailer, Metroid Dread. What was the title that came out alongside the Switch OLED? Metroid Dread. And so most people think that Mario Kart's going to be a launch title. And now they have this Mario Kart Lego set coming out May 15th, which we already talked about for those other reasons. Seems very interesting. But that's not it. That's not even why it's that big of a deal. That's just kind of like the surface level interesting stuff. I took a look, and I pointed this out in yesterday's video. I took a look at the different Lego release dates. And I noticed a very, very interesting trend. Most of the Lego sets come out in the first of the month. Like most. Most Nintendo Lego sets come out on the first. And these first days tend to happen on a Saturday or a Sunday. Most of the time. But then I looked at things outside of Nintendo Lego sets. The Sonic set came out on the first. I looked at things outside of video game related Lego sets, like a Harry Potter one came out on the first. I did find an example where it wasn't the first, though. It was, I think it was the Lord of the Rings Rivendell set that came out in March of 2023 or 2024. I mentioned the dates in yesterday's video. I don't remember all the dates on the top of my head, right? But it came out March 5th, which is not the first, but it was still close to the weekend. It was still early on in the month, right? And so if you could, the more and more I looked, the more and more examples I saw were basically whenever Lego puts out a set, there are some exceptions, but for the most part, they come out at the very beginning of the month and they fall on a weekend. Sometimes it's a Friday or a Monday. Most of the time it's Saturday or Sunday, first of the month. And here we have a Mario Kart Lego set that's coming out on May 15th.
Right.
The middle of the month. That's completely out of the ordinary. I could not find a single example. There may be some examples, but like it's not like I was looking for the only ones that match. Like I just continue to find different ones, and I have not found an example that matches to that. And it's on a Thursday, not the weekend, not the beginning of the week, not the end. A Thursday, right? Which is not literally the middle, but it ain't the weekend, right? So it's a very, very weird release time for a Lego set. So when you think about that, you think about the Mario Kart element to it and how we think Mario Kart's going to be a launch title, how it is May 15th, the day Nintendo puts out Nintendo things. We have other games that don't make sense to be coming out during that time, but are like Doom Dark Ages. And then we also account for the fact that the Switch 2 Experience events are not happening during this period of time, which lines up with how they handled Switch 1 when it came out, and the pace in which, looking from when the reveal trailer came out to when the presentation came out, if we sort of figure, like, based on like the way it went for Switch 1, it would suggest that this mid-May period, May 15th, is when it's going to happen. So it's just a lot, right? Like, maybe it's a whole bunch of like coincidences, but when I look at all the Lego release dates, at that point, to me, it felt like a tipping point. Like before, it was a theory I was very excited about that I thought it made a lot. Like that, I think the Doom Dark Ages thing really throws me too. Like it's just it's these things that are completely out of the ordinary, right? If it was like it's just too. To me, it's too much for me to think it's nothing. Obviously, maybe it is just a series of coincidences, and I'm just looking for them. But it's a lot to me. So I think it's May 15th. However, there are people who think it's May 22nd. I think some of it ties. I don't know all the details behind that May 22nd theory, but part of it is basically is a lot of what I just said. Right, it's still kind of in the middle of May. It does fall into this random break of Switch 2 Experience events. There are a lot of games coming out during that period of time, like Fantasy Life-I on May 21st, and so from that perspective, May 22nd still makes sense as well. And there's the whole 222 thing, which I think is just that, to me, that's just coincidence.
I don't know if I know about 222.
22. Switch 2.
Oh, okay.
I think the Switch 2 first look trailer was also like 222, like 2 minutes, 22 seconds. Like, I think that's just coincidence. I think the trailer was actually probably 2 minutes and 21 seconds, but YouTube rounds up. Fun fact, that's what they do. Like, whenever I upload a video, like if it has a few frames after the second, it's just going to round it up to that whole thing. But yes, Silver Frost Booster, I was going to get to that point. On May 22nd, though, there is a very interesting Nintendo event that is occurring. The opening of the Donkey Kong park in for Super Nintendo World. I mean, the whole park's opening on May 22nd in Orlando. So it's a big thing.
Hell yeah.
And so personally, right, like if I have to pick between May 15th and May 22nd, but you could make the argument that why would they release a new console when this Lego set's coming out? But on the flip side, you could also make the argument, why would they release a console when they want people to go to the park, right? Like, if you're going to this new park, why are you going? You don't have time to play the console. You're spending the day at the park.
True.
So I mean, I think you could make an argument for either one, but I'll say this about the Mario Kart Lego set thing. The Mario Kart Lego set thing, I think you could almost look at it kind of like extra merchandising or like a collector's edition kind of like content. Because think about whenever we get like a huge game. Like think like, you know, when there was like a Xenoblade collector's edition set or like a Tears of the Kingdom collector's edition set, like we're gonna buy it all, right? Like, oh, there's merch for Zelda on launch day of a new Zelda game. Give me that too, right? So if there's a brand new Mario Kart that we've been waiting years for, right? Because the last time we had a brand new console Mario Kart technically was 2014 for the Wii U, right? Like a ground up mainline one.
11 years ago.
Like there's going to be a lot of excitement for this. like you might look at the Lego set as just kind of like a niche collector's item thing, because quite frankly, these Lego sets things are expensive. I don't know what the sales are for these things, but I don't think it's gonna like it's a cool thing. I'm sure some of you here in the chat are gonna buy it, but I'm just saying, to me, it just feels like just more exciting merch for people to pick up when a game is coming out.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with you on the collector's edition side of things. Like people always pick up, not not everybody, but there's always somebody willing to pick up the collector's edition, or pick up some kind of different merchandise or something related to the game. And there's for big games, there's almost always something like that. So yeah, makes sense. That the Lego set kind of fits under that. And also, it's like if you're wanting people to go to the park, but you're also wanting them to buy a new
wait in
console.
line to buy a new console, like
Right. Well, it's like also, but you want them to pay to go to a park and then buy merchandise and buy food and buy all these things. They just bought a console that might be like $400 US, right?
it's a lot. Yeah.
Plus
but
games and accessories and stuff on top of that. You might be spending $600-700. Some people.
Yeah. But then maybe it's not May, right? Maybe these are just coincidences and it's in June. Because like I said, there are companies that think it's happening in June. That's what I can say. There are companies that think it's happening in June. Yeah. There are rumors that it's June. Of course, those rumors also included May as a possibility. So I think quite frankly, not everyone really knows exactly when it's coming out. And so these are just estimates, right? But to me, June makes less sense to me than May 15th or May 22nd. Like, if it comes out June, that's not an issue for me. I don't care. Like, I don't really care if my theory is wrong, right? Like, I talk about it because it makes sense. I think a lot of you at least agree that it seems like
be
fairly
slightly
logical,
disappointed,
right?
But not that disappointed because it's not that much time.
Like, June is not that much later. It's not a big deal. But I look at June as I'm unsure about it because we have the Summer Games Fest happening then. That's when a lot of the industry is going to be making a lot of announcements. And I just don't know if Nintendo would want to launch their console during that time. You do it in May, the console is going to be, the absolute like center of all the attention, right? I mean, we're going to have all the experience events throughout April. They end in early May. Like, to me, it just kind of makes sense that like you have kind of like this big sort of
building up all this hype to this one point
to not do anything in mid-May, to just like stop. Then Summer Games Fest comes around. There's a whole bunch of other things happening on top of the Switch 2 stuff.
Yeah, and you definitely don't want to launch it after Summer Games Fest, I think. Well, I guess if it's after the experience, they can still just announce a bunch of stuff for it. But
so here's the other thing, though. Summer Games Fest
you want
starts
the potential for
early
like
June.
Shadow drops.
It's not even like if Summer Games Fest is like later June, I will be like, all right. But Summer Games Fest starts like June 6th.
That's very early.
Right. So, like, to me, it almost makes more sense. Like, maybe the Switch 2 comes out like June 5th, right? Like, okay, if it's June 5th, then all right, maybe like it comes out June 5th, and then over the weekend, there are people who are announcing a whole bunch of games like, hey, guess what? Our game is coming out on the new console that just came out yesterday. Like,
right.
Maybe it could be the 1st of June, but to me, I don't know. I think like I got my theory. I'm sticking with that. I think it's May 15th, but if it happens a few weeks later, that's still great.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Now I'm gonna check with the chat list if there's anything else you want to add, Brandon.
Not necessarily. And there's a lot of people in the chat, so we can talk to them.
Okay. Red Sea Gaming. I think it is a great idea for Nintendo to announce the release date for June because of the Summer Games Fest. Nintendo will literally take over by announcing all the games coming to the Switch 2. Like, so I agree that Nintendo can position things in a way where they can take advantage of Summer Games Fest. To your point. I just think it kind of the timing matters, right? I think the timing
Yeah.
in June is a bit more tricky because then we also have the Microsoft and Sony events that are going to happen during that time as well, right? So like there's just a lot more competition in June for the spotlight than there is in May. But I do agree with you that Summer Games Fest can work to Nintendo's advantage depending on how they time things.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Wilberforce Booster, when do you think the next Direct will be after the April Direct? June seems too early. A weird July Direct. I mean, Nintendo lately. I mean, last year they had a June Direct, but it was late June, right? They're not doing the early June thing. They're actually they've avoided Summer Games Fest. Actually, like they've taken, now that they're not beholden to the E3 timing. They're just like, hey, we're just gonna do our Direct a little bit later. That's kind of what they've been doing. So I would say at the earliest it'll be kind of how it was last year, late June, but yeah, maybe July. The July Direct I don't think is totally out of the question.
I think they had an early July Direct in 2020, didn't they? But I don't remember what type of Direct it was. I may be wrong.
I don't think you're wrong. But they had a partner showcase in 2020. There were no normal Directs in 2020.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, they I think I'll check the archive, but I believe off the top of my head there was one Direct Mini in March or February. I think it was February. I'll just check. I'm just checking right now. And the rest are partner showcases into the Mario Anniversary Direct. All right, so in 2020 in 2020 we had an Animal Crossing Direct in February. We had a Direct Mini late March. We had a Direct Mini partner showcase, the first in July, like you said.
Okay.
Mario Anniversary Direct was in September, and then also in September was another mini partner showcase. And then also in October, there was a mini partner showcase. They had 3 mini partner showcases, one Mario Anniversary Direct, one Nintendo Direct Mini, and an Animal Crossing Direct in 2020. Also, there was a Super Nintendo World Direct. Yeah. So there was actually a lot of Direct presentations in 2020. They were just, most of them were
not the ones we wanted at the time.
Yeah. Mario Anniversary Direct was pretty hype, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. That Direct Mini Direct was the best Direct Mini ever. Because I don't know. Maybe that's I mean, minis are inherently not as exciting, so it doesn't have as much competition. But I would have to kind of look at everything. So
yeah, I don't recall.
Yeah. Richie Jardine, Andres, are they just going to show first party games at the Switch 2 Direct, or are they going to show third party also? Come on, Street Fighter 6. I definitely think there's going to be a lot of third party games.
For sure, there's going to be a bunch.
Yeah. I mean, right now third parties are like the major ones. What you'll know, like you might see some indie title games be announced for Switch 2, right? But you're going to notice that no major third parties have said anything in terms of official game. Like third parties will say, "Oh, we're very interested in Switch 2," or like they'll say, "Oh, it looks like a really good console," right? But they're not. They'll be like, "Oh, I can't." They'll say, "Oh, I can't really speak on." They're under NDA. Like they have to be very careful about their wording. I think a lot of games are just gonna, we're gonna learn about a lot of third-party games in the Switch 2 Direct, and also afterwards as well. Like once April 2nd comes around, I think then a lot of companies are going to be allowed to start talking about their official support of the console and literally start saying, "Hey, our game coming to Switch 2, coming to Switch 2." You'll start seeing the logos and trailers and stuff, for sure. And that's gonna be a nice thing to see, at least in Summer Games Fest, right? Like at least by that point, we're gonna start seeing the Switch 2 logo in trailers. It's kind of like we were hoping we'd see it at Tokyo Game Show. We was hoping we'd see it at the Game Awards, right? Like, but we weren't quite there yet. Yeah. The M52. I wonder if Nintendo wants to make a clean break from Switch 1 to avoid the people aren't going to new gen fast enough problem with the PS4 to PS5 transition. that is something I have thought about, and it's something I've been in agreement with for a long time, right? Like, so like whenever people have asked me, oh, do you think like, Mario Kart 3D Mario are going to be cross-gen titles? My answer has been
No.
no, I don't think so. For that reason. But at the same time, I have also still thought that Nintendo's going to have some pretty decent support for Switch 1, largely remasters and such, even in the beginning of the Switch 2 generation. However, my mind is shifting a little bit because they have not said anything yet. It's getting really close to that Switch 2 Direct. It's starting to look like maybe 2025 is just going to be really light for Switch 1. But a thought occurred to me, right? And I'm glad you asked this question because it kind of directly ties to the title for tonight's live stream. Like, does Nintendo only care about Switch 2 now? And I think ultimately the answer is no.
No.
They don't only care about Switch 2, right? That's an exaggeration. But I do think that, yes, Switch 2 is their focus. And I do think that they are going to start to really shy away from Switch 1. Like, Switch 1 is still going to have things. There are still going to be Switch 1 announcements. But they are going to become more few and far between. Like, I mean, for example, we just went through February. We got no Nintendo published title for February.
Yeah.
That's already very weird. And we don't know about
Direct.
No direct. I mean, the last time we had a big general for Switch 1 was last June. I argued at the time that was going to be our last big general direct. And just for the record,
So
most of the time when we've done direct speculation about Switch 1, I've always kind of said I think it's probably going to be a partner, maybe a mini. I've been consistent with that, just so we're clear, right? Of course, if they gave us something bigger, I'm not going to complain, right? I'll be happy.
Yeah.
But that's just not what my expectation has been.
At
But
this
even
point, it just definitely doesn't seem like there's going to be
the thing is
anywhere there's a full direct.
my low expectation of partner showcase has not even been met.
No.
So that's
Still
the funny
time,
part.
but-
Yeah, there is still time. But I had an idea. And maybe this is how things are going to go. Obviously, things I have like a pattern in mind. I don't think the pattern's going to be match up exactly, but maybe this is like a good sort of ballpark estimate for how things will go.
Okay.
So, like, for example, with Switch 1 throughout most of its years, you could say Nintendo had about one major published title per month. There were times where there was two. There were times where there was an indie title or an eShop title that they published as well, and so that kind of throws off the number a little bit. And there were months that they skipped, right? But in general, almost on average, it was about one major published title per month, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think that's going to change. I think we're going to be looking at something closer to maybe one every 2 months. And that major title may not even be a new game, but a remaster. So in January, we had the Donkey Kong remaster, right? February, nothing. In March, we have a Xenoblade remaster. In April, at this point, looks like nothing. I mean, you got to think about it. Like you might say, oh, they can just announce an April game at any point. They can. They really, truly can. However, what game even makes sense to come out in April? Because let's remind yourselves, Switch 2 Experience event is on April 2nd. Oh, the Direct is on April 2nd. And then the Experience events are happening all throughout April. And it's not going to just be Experience events. I'm sure press is going to get involved as well. There are going to be previews and different things. There's going to be marketing. There's going to be commercials. Like, there's going to be so much about Switch 2. Like, does it really even make sense to announce a Switch 1 game during this period of time? I'm kind of skeptical.
I think if you are going to release a Switch 1 game, you're going to want to release something that people who are looking at Switch 2 won't care as much about potentially, or it won't be as big of a deal. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe
I mean,
like a Tamagotchi Life remaster
or the Kirby game, maybe.
Kirby, yeah.
We've talked about this before, but that's not the direction I'm headed in here. I'm arguing that maybe there's nothing, and we wait till May. So all of a sudden, it's looking like every other month there's a Switch 1 game. And so you might say, well, hold up, aren't you theorizing that Switch 2 launches in May? I am.
Mm-hmm.
This is yes, exactly. What if, and this is where maybe things get a little crazy, right? But what if Nintendo puts out actually a pretty big Switch 1 game in May? And the only way that makes sense in my mind is if it's Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. Because I also think Metroid Prime 4 is a Switch 2 cross-generation title. So,
Right.
in May, Nintendo does the bold thing of launching the console, and it has two major titles to launch the console, which I know some people are going to argue maybe isn't the best idea. And I concede it might not be the best idea. But if there's ever a time to release two big games, if not more, on the same day, it's literally the launch of the console. And by the way, I put out a video like I think last week or 2 days ago. Look at the history of Nintendo console launch. There's always been 2 or 3 first-party titles. It always has been. It's nothing new. Now, the scope and breadth of those titles, that's where there's wiggle room. It's probably has not been as big as the Mario Kart. But
Mhm.
the idea that I'm trying to convey here is simply that they could do the 1-2 punch of Mario Kart, Metroid Prime 4. I know a lot of people think that they do fit, right? Like, there's an argument there, right?
I think it could work.
And it's also a Switch 1 game. So it's not even like, yeah, people are going to buy it for Switch 2. There are people going to buy it for Switch 1. And there you go. Like, there is a big Switch 1 game in May that won't be overshadowed by Switch 2 because it's also a part of Switch 2, right?
Right.
And I think it would just make a lot of sense from that perspective. And we're now still looking at like that every other month thing. And by the way, Pokemon Legends ZA, same thing. I think it's another cross-gen title, and it's going to sell a lot on Switch 1, but there will be maybe not as awesome of a version like compared to Metroid Prime 4's enhancement, but I think there's going to be something. And that will also be one of the dedicated months, right? And then once the Switch 2 launch kind of blows over after a couple months, then they could be like, hey, you know what? Here's that Kirby game you were asking for, right? And then some people are probably going to be asking, well, what about that rumored Fire Emblem game? Well, it's interesting, right? We've been hearing about this Fire Emblem game for such a long time, has not been shown. What if it's because they're like, hey, hold on a second. This is actually a fairly ambitious remake, not a remaster, a remake. Right? So effectively, visually, and probably also gameplay-wise, a new game, right? Then maybe it does make sense to hold off on it, maybe even have a enhanced Switch 2 version. And so what do? This is one of the it comes out one of those months where we're like, hey, this is a month we're going to support Switch 1, but it still has a Switch 2 version, and it can still function as a big Switch 2 release for a particular month.
Okay.
And so, so like I start to think about this, right? And all of a sudden, we may already know what the Switch 1 lineup is for the year, right? So January, Donkey Kong, March, Xenoblade X, May, Metroid Prime 4. They skip June. July's Fire Emblem. Then August, September, maybe that's when Pokemon Legends ZA comes out, and there's like one other thing, or maybe that's when Wind Waker HD comes out, right? In September, and then November is Pokemon when it normally comes out, and there you go. They go every other month, right? But you still have kind of like some decent games, like Pokemon, Metroid, Fire Emblem, Wind Waker HD, like all of those things are gonna sell a few million, right?
Right.
And none of those games are going to hamper Switch 2 success. If anything, they may help it. Especially if they all have like cross-generation enhancements. Wind Waker HD, maybe it's just like, hey, it's in 4K. Like,
right.
It's not gonna be a big deal. It's gonna be like, hey, do you want to download this 4K patch? And I'll be like, sure. After 2 minutes, here you go. We didn't change anything because it looks exactly the same. Just it fits the aspect ratio of your television. Like,
it'll look a little better, but
like
not much.
It's gonna be marginal, right? For the blind, it will look the same. So
for most people, it would look pretty much exactly the same.
Yeah,
there'd be a little less aliasing, but not too bad.
But anyway, it's kind of how I'm thinking the year might go right now. Now, a little bit of an asterisk, right? Like, we have the Metroid Prime 1 through 3 visual retrospective that's coming out in June. I believe it's June. I think we're going to see Metroid Prime 2 and 3 come out. For Switch 1.
I was going to mention that. I was like, but you didn't mention Prime.
We'll expand on whatever you wanted to mention initially.
Well, just... I do think, that. Well, I don't necessarily think for sure that Prime 2 and 3 are going to come out, but it is something that a lot of people believe in, and it is something that you didn't mention. So I was kind of curious how you thought that fit in, because I do think there's definitely going to be a few more like random little things that come out that get dropped. I mean, you didn't mention Fantasy Life, so that's one we already know about. So there's going to be other little things for sure. But you may have picked the tentpole Switch One titles for the year.
Maybe. I heard from Gerard that the audio is kind of low distorted.
It was just a couple seconds. Honestly, I didn't say anything because I thought it was on my end and it went away. But yeah, there was a few seconds where it was kind of hard to hear you.
All right, I don't know if I sound louder now, but I do see that my microphone was like at half the volume I normally have it at. Sound any different to you? Or is it the same?
It's the same.
I don't know.
I mean, there was this distinct audio difference for some reason for like 30 seconds, and it went away. I don't know what that was.
Okay. Well, I mean, it seems like it's whatever it was. It was a temporary issue. I see that both Gerard and Six Hack are saying everything's fine. So cool. So checking with the chat here, a guy you don't know asks me, the problem I see with releasing Prime for as early as May is there being such little time to market the game to the general public, which may hurt the game's sales potential quite a bit. Well, I don't know if I agree, because I think that Nintendo in general has had fairly short turnarounds for like the big media blitz, right? I mean, first off, Metroid Prime 4 we already have a trailer for it, right? We have a trailer for it, right? Like they technically started marketing it in June.
We've had 2 trailers.
I got first look trailer with all the blue black dust in space. I mean,
before it got restarted.
Fun fact: I don't know if you guys can tell from the podcast background I have, but it's based off that first look thing of Prime 4 where you got the blue space thing, right? That's part of it, but you also notice these red swirls. That's just me changing the color of the green swirls from Tears of the Kingdom, and I merged the images because I thought it looked cool.
Right.
It's very simple. That's what it is. My 2 favorite franchises, Zelda and Metroid. So Mario and Xenoblade are like right there too. But yeah. So yeah, like to the point of the question, or the point, I guess it's just a point. Yeah, so that's quick turnarounds. Like if Metroid Prime 4 does not come out in May, I don't think it's because they didn't think they had enough time. But another interesting point, like maybe it comes out in June, right? Like maybe they only wait a little bit, right? Maybe Metroid Prime 2 and 3 come out in May, right? Possibly. And they're actually used to help market Metroid Prime 4. Right, so maybe, if anything, maybe this makes more sense, right? Where Switch 2 does launch in May with Mario Kart, right? That is the initial big title. But Metroid Prime 2 and 3 are made available to Switch 1 owners in May. Of course, you can still play it on your Switch 2 as well. And they're going to be marketing Metroid Prime 4 throughout April, throughout May, into June, and Prime 2 and 3 are a part of that. Reminder, on June 24th, the Metroid Prime 1 to 3 visual retrospective comes out. So maybe that all lines up and Metroid Prime 4 is a June or even July title. So like you could be right. Like maybe they want to wait a little bit more time. I'm totally okay with that. Heck, maybe it is Metroid Prime 4 is a July game, and the May game, if my theory is right, that they're going to kind of be more like every other month, is just Prime 2 and 3, which I think would be. It seems kind of bad. Like I think it'd be kind of bad to have like between April and July be only Metroid for Switch 1, but there are a few possibilities here. So
for sure,
yeah. I mean, I don't even mind that. But I do want to speak on a point, and it's actually teaser for tomorrow's video. It's a Metroid related video. I do think that starting with the April 2nd Direct, the marketing for Metroid Prime 4 is going to really start to pick up, right? Like if it is truly the case that Metroid Prime 4 is a cross-gen title for Switch 2, which if they haven't shown it yet,
at this point it's basically it has to be.
Like I think this ongoing debate about if it is or isn't, I think that our team has seemingly won because the Switch 2 Direct is right there, and if Metroid Prime 4 is not there, then I think we're all shocked, right? But what's going to be cool about this is that we're going to see this game. We're going
Yeah.
to see another trailer of this game, and it's probably going to be a more significant trailer. Then
Probably.
they may even have a segment where they sort of talk about the mouse controller functionality. And
Yeah.
what might be even crazier than that functionality they showcase, than the trailer they showcase, is that we're going to get people to actually play this game. Because I feel kind of pretty
Yeah.
good in saying that Metroid Prime 4 is going to be part of that Switch 2 experience event. I don't think it's
There's a
just going
good
to be Mario
chance.
Kart. This is what I will say. I don't think it's going to be 3D Mario. I do not think 3D Mario will be
Okay.
playable at the event. Why? Because I don't think that game is coming
Yeah.
out to the holiday. But
And
Mario Kart,
with
Metroid
Mario
Prime
Odyssey,
4,
they did hide a lot of what that game was about the first
Yeah.
time they showed it off.
Yeah, we didn't know about Cappy until E3.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that game was our initial trailer was in January. Like the teaser was the prior year, but the trailer was in January, and we didn't get it till October, right? So there was a longer cycle for that one.
Right.
But I'm just excited that we're probably going to get a lot of Metroid Prime 4 news in April.
Yeah. I, at this point, that seems to be the time. I feel like if you don't get a lot of news in April, then I'd be kind of scared for what happened to this game.
I don't know. I would be just shocked.
Yeah, I wouldn't know what to think.
It would be one of those things where like Nintendo would just be intentionally trying to fool with us, like
It'd be some serious trolling.
because like right now all their actions are leading us to believe that they are just moving on from Switch 1, right? Like they've already announced that the voucher program will not work with Switch 2, that they're phasing out the gold coin discount program. Like these are little things, but they are things that are showing that they are kind of slowly transitioning away from Switch 1, right? There are less games. Last year was mostly remasters or like partner projects. So it does look like Nintendo does not care about as much about Switch 1 as they used to, which they probably shouldn't, because we're now in the 9th year of Nintendo Switch.
That's crazy.
for those that get confused by that statement, we just enjoyed on March 3rd the 8-year anniversary, right? Meaning it's been out for 8 years, so now we're working towards that 9th year, hence why we are in the 9th year of Switch 1.
This is an absolutely insanely long cycle. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, when the Switch came out, at the time I was 2017, but yeah, I would have been 17 at the time. Yeah. That's crazy. I'm turning 26 this year.
Yeah. A lot has happened in the last 8 years, and
my life is completely different than it was when the Switch came out.
And I bet it's going to be completely different again when we're talking about Switch 3 coming out.
Probably.
8 years from now.
Oh, God.
You know, it's going to be hilarious. We're going to get to 8 years and we're like, hey, guys, Switch 3 is coming out anytime now. And people are like, nah, it ain't coming out. It ain't coming out for another 3 years. And they'll be right. Switch 2 is going to have a 12-year lifespan.
Man, I hope not.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that, but I will say I do think 8 years is...
honestly, you know, it's probably good to expect another 8 years, but I really hope, for my personal sake, that it's a bit shorter. You know, like 5 or 6 years.
It is not going to be 5 years.
Probably not.
No way.
Unfortunately,
6 years is maybe being. Yeah, that even 6 years I think is, like, I think it's 6 years if the Switch 2 is a failure.
That's rough.
7 though, you could convince me on 7, right? This is what's gonna happen, right? Like I'm gonna, you know, like I look at these last 8 years. I'm like, all right, so this is the standard now, the 8 years, right? And what's gonna happen is we're into that 6th year, and then Video Games Chronicle and Eurogamer and Bloomberg, these reputable outlets, are all gonna report, hey, Switch 2 is coming out next year. And then I'm gonna be like, well, of all these different articles are reporting it's coming out next year, maybe it's coming out next year. And then I'm gonna talk about it. And then next year's gonna come out, and then people will be like, it didn't happen. How dare you? and then we're gonna get to the 8th year and be like, hey, it makes sense now, right? It's been 8 years. They've supposedly they were close to doing it, but they were wrong with the reports by a little bit, and then it's going to take 9 years. We'll see.
No.
We'll see what happens. Something I will say, I'm kind of joking right now, right, with like hints of truth, but I do personally think that it's hard to prove at this point, but I have thought about a lot that they did initially want Switch 2 to come out last year. And we look at how right now it looks like Switch 1 is just gonna like fall off a cliff in terms of support. Not a steep cliff. It's more like a cliff like it's a cliff with like some rocks maybe you could grab on, but you are tumbling down hard and you're taking a beating, right? Like that's the kind of cliff it is. So where you might survive, but you're going to be in the ER afterwards.
Yeah, I mean the cliff that you're theoretically, in a situation where they come up with half as many games. That's a 45-degree angle cliff, and that's a pretty steep cliff. It's
right.
You might
it's not
survive.
90. It's not straight death,
cliff, right?
But yeah, exactly.
That's gonna hurt.
Exactly.
It's like falling down a flight of stairs,
Yeah. Where was I with this weird analogy? Right. Okay. So the point I'm making, though, right, is that I think Nintendo may have not intended for it to be a 45-degree cliff, but maybe like 60 or 75, because we look at game releases like Echoes of Wisdom, Super Mario Party Jamboree. They may have intended for some of these games to kind of been spaced out between last year and this year. And so there would have been there would have been months where it's a game that's available for both Switch 1 and Switch 2.
Okay.
A little bit more. But because they had to delay things, certain games, they were like, hey, this is going to be fine on just Switch 1, like Echoes of Wisdom. They just did it, right? They reorganized whatever their plans were. They pushed it all into that final holiday stretch. It may be why we got 3 Mario RPG games in the span of 1 year, actually, because it doesn't make when I think about that, actually, it makes a lot of sense. Why would they have 3 Mario RPGs come out in the same in 12 months? I think maybe because that wasn't the original plan.
Sales of each one.
Yeah, they probably wanted to space it out across 2 years, but because they had to delay the Switch 2, we're like, hey, maybe we should just put out all the Switch 1 games we have at the ready now and save whatever makes sense for Switch 2 for later, like Metroid Prime 4. Also, Pokemon Legends EA is coming out really late too. Like that's another one.
Yeah.
That maybe they could have come out with sooner. And then there's a Fire Emblem remake. Like where's that? So yeah, I a little bit of it is me thinking that they kind of just used a lot of the Switch 1 games they had saved for 2024 that they would have had spread out between 2024 and 2025 alongside some Switch 2 titles. And so now in this year of 2025, at least the way things are looking now, Nintendo can announce a direct tomorrow and make this point seem bad, but it looks like support it is rolling down a 45-degree angle cliff. Yeah.
Seems that way. But a lot can change.
Yes.
I'm hopeful that it won't be quite that bad. Maybe like a 35-degree cliff, maybe a little less steep.
I mean, it can change. And by the way, I'm not even saying it's going to be that bad, right? I'm saying I'm arguing every other month, which is how it's looking right now. It's still not that bad.
No, it's not that bad.
But it's not great.
I don't think it's as good as the 3DS got support for.
No, and I think because the Switch 2 was internally delayed.
It's possible.
Yeah, a lot of people don't want to believe it was internally delayed. It's easy for people to think that all the articles are reported on it several times. It's just lied. But
I definitely don't think they lied. At least not the credible sources.
No, I don't think they lied either.
I
think it was based on truth. But when you're talking about things before they're officially confirmed, there's room for error and misinterpretation, delays, changes, all that stuff.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So there's a few things that I haven't gone to in terms of like super chat membership stuff I would like to get to. Boo Mini gifted a membership about half an hour ago. I missed that. Thank you, Boo Mini, for being the MVP of gifting memberships. I'm trying to see if I can go back and see who won it. Yes, Anthony Nelson has won this membership.
Nice.
Congratulations, Anthony Nelson. Having Hope earlier, been a member for 25 straight months. Thank you, Having Hope.
Nice.
You are amazing. I can't believe we are 9 days away from Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition and 22 days until April 2nd. Yes, it's an awesome day to be a Nintendo fan. Totally 100%. Yes. Good times are coming. Yeah, Xenoblade is right around the corner, and Xenoblade music just kind of kicked on. Yeah, I don't have I don't know if I'm gonna make any Xenoblade X videos. Like, I thought about it. We'll see, but like I am gonna pick up the game. Like, I played it on Wii U, but I'm gonna play it again.
Right.
It's been 10 years, so it's gonna be a good time. It's a very good game.
I'm hopeful for some sort of patch when the Switch 2 comes out. But either way, I'll play the game when the Switch 2 comes out. I really want to play that new campaign.
It's funny.
And there's still a little bit of the story I didn't beat back on the Wii U, despite putting like 200 hours in the game. Because I just dilly-dallied and did stuff. And then the Switch came out, and I was like, oh, well, I don't really want this Wii U anymore.
Well, the process has been streamlined. So I think it's going to be easier to progress and get to that moment where you get the scales and stuff. Like, you have to put in a good 20 hours in Xenoblade X before you got the scales.
Just wandering around, like exploring and grinding and stuff. You don't have to put 200 hours into the game. I did.
No,
but you don't have to.
The process is going to be streamlined and faster, so people are going to get to a lot of this stuff a little bit more easily.
Nice. I do actually really appreciate the time before Skells, when the world feels just like absolutely insanely massive.
I'll get to your super chat in a moment, Netweed. Go on, Brandon.
I was just saying, I do like that moment. All the times before you get a Skell, and the world just feels like absolutely crazy huge. And there, you do kind of brush over some of the smaller details when you're in the Skell flying around. I do kind of like the on-foot exploration as a lot. And when I got my Skell, I kind of was like, oh, the world doesn't feel as big, and I'm kind of like glancing over things. So, but I do like the Skells, but I also appreciate just roaming around Mira on foot.
Yeah, no,
you can run super fast and jump super high. Everything feels huge.
Yeah, it is fun to do that, right? But I think it is interesting to kind of spend a significant amount of time without the scales, because once you get the scales, the game changes.
Yeah,
it's a different experience once you get them, but it's still a great experience beforehand. I'm totally with you there. Anyways, yeah, Xenoblade X, legendary game. It's gonna be fun to play it again in a week and a half. We're very close. Less than a week and a half. Anyway, I want to get to these super chats from Netweed09. Thank you, cool. Netweed, for the super chats. 10 years of Switch 2? Well, we'll be fine, guys. Mario doesn't need half of 10 teraflops to run well. And really, nor will Dragon's Dogma 2. Yeah. I am just joking about the 10 years. I mean, I think Switch 2 will be around for 10 years, but I don't think we'll have to wait 10 years for Switch 3.
No.
But 8, I'm prepared to wait for. Let's be clear. It is more than 8 years for Switch, right? Because we already had the 8-year anniversary. We still don't have a release date for Switch 2. I think it's May, maybe June, but that has not been confirmed yet. So we do know 2025 though. That much has been confirmed. It is coming out.
We won't have to wait 9 years.
No, we won't, unless there's a very, very extreme, unfortunate delay. But to be honest with you, I think the way Nintendo in large part operates now, there's a lot of things that they could tell us about sooner, but they choose not to, just because they do want to wait closer to when they're like super, super sure, and that's what they like tell us, right? I think a little bit of the old school of thought kind of gets into the new school of thought. Like they sort of struggle with each other because, we talk about like certain things like, oh, well, maybe we should wait longer for that. But I think the only reason they started talking about it now is because it's actually really close to happening. Right. And so when they finally give us that Switch 2 reveal trailer with 2025, I think it's because everything's already lined up. Everything's ready to go. Like this is when it's happening. like maybe had Nintendo decided to give us a trailer for Switch 2 early last year, they might have said, hey, coming out 2024. And so might have all had the expectation, hey, this is a holiday release, right? But that would only be them kind of telling us too soon. And then a few months, they're like, oh, well, sorry, we actually have to delay it half a year. So, you know.
Yeah, delays are not good. Preferably. No. They ruin a bit of the hype.
Yeah.
And they also set expectations up to be higher. So it's overall not great to have delays.
Yeah. Another super chat from Netweed09. Netweed says, I'm sure we'd all love a chill Xenoblade Chronicles X video, Andres. We'll see. We will see. Thank you for the super chat. I'm definitely going to play Xenoblade. I'll tell you that. We'll at least talk about on the live stream, my experience of it. But I think part of it for me is that I don't know what else I can add. Because we played the game 10 years ago, and it's just like we kind of know everything there is about it already. But maybe I'll just have a video just talking about how excited I am for it. Just kind of like a hype thing, and just pointing out all the improvements and how that's going to make the game a better experience. And just kind of from my perspective of having played it originally, and just looking at the changes and what that will mean for the overall game. And I can dive a little bit into the new content stuff, like, because there is some theorizing that can be had there.
Right.
So
I think the nice thing about Xenoblade Chronicles X is anybody can jump in, and you don't have to have played any other games, which is kind of true for all of the Xenoblade games in a way. But especially for X, like you don't need to have played any of the other Xenoblade games.
Yeah. The other three, they are interconnected. The stories stand on their own, but there is like Easter eggs.
Yeah.
They're like, oh yeah, that and that, and there is like an overall background story.
Right. They're all three of them are intrinsically connected.
Yeah. So coming back to the live chat here, I see JRL Tolkien had asked me earlier. This may be an easy question, but what are the three things that for you that will make or break the direct? Easy question. This is not an easy question. This is the hardest question because I can't pick three single things that make or break the presentation for me. I mean, I kind of can. All right, so one. It needs to be a lot. Like, it can't be... Like, I think part of the reason why it's a little tough for me is if I say, oh, it needs to have Metroid Prime 4. Oh, it needs to have 3D Mario. It needs to have Mario Kart. Like, in theory, the Direct can be good and be missing one or two of these things, right? Yeah. So it isn't that. I can't go game by game here. Like, if there was, like, a big Zelda teaser, like, that would be exciting. But I don't need it. I don't need it to make the presentation, right? And if it's gone, it won't break it. But what I do think needs to be there is that there needs to be several big first-party releases. There needs to be. Like, if there's not several big brand new Nintendo titles that they have to show off, that will break the Direct, right? Like, if you just have Mario Kart and Metroid Prime 4 and third-party titles, that will be a bad Switch 2 Direct. It might be exciting. Like, most individual things will be exciting, but as a reveal presentation for a new generation, it will actually be terrible because then you only have one game that just wouldn't be good. So there needs to be several, right? Like, I need to see, like, me just saying things that aren't even like that are kind of like obvious, right? Like, Mario Kart 3D Mario need to be there, right? If there's and then there needs to be like at least 3 other titles, probably more. Like, there should probably be a Splatoon 4 or an Animal Crossing, maybe some other new Nintendo IP or revived Nintendo IP. Star Fox, F-Zero come to mind, right? Yeah, some cross enhancements like for Metroid Prime 4, and a little bit more. Then there's got to be some third-party stuff, right? But anyway, so that's one. Several first-party reveals, right? 2, they need to accurately describe the system. Like, they need to tell us what it is, and not like I know they're not going to be like, hey, this console does like so many teraflops, right? They're not going to say that.
No.
but they might say, hey, you can enjoy your games up to 4K, right? Like and there's a variety of visual, and I'm not. It is going to be interesting that part's tricky. Like I think they're going to have to say something on the improvements to the visuals and such, but I don't know exactly how they're going to word it. That part. I mean, maybe they'll just let the games do the talking.
I think that they'll probably do like comparisons and point out different things, but not in like a super technical way. They'll just be like, we upped the resolution, and look, the lighting is better, and look at those shadows, or like.
Well, Metroid Prime 4 might
stuff.
be a really good thing if there is like some.
Yeah, Prime 4 is definitely gonna be. I feel like they're gonna have a comparison to the Switch 1 version.
That might be one way to go about it. But the second point is basically they need to clearly illustrate all the improvements of Switch 2. And then the third thing, strong third-party support.
Yeah.
That's kind of it. Like if there's not strong third-party support, that would be bad. That would break it. Hey, if it's missing any of those three elements, that would break the presentation.
Right.
And I recognize all those 3 points are vague, but they're all this is a Switch 2 Direct. This Direct can't just be. It literally has to be better than any other prior Direct, which may seem like asking for a lot, but this is literally the presentation to reveal Nintendo's next generation.
Right, which was not previously done in a Direct.
Right, exactly. This is a Direct Plus. Like this is not a normal.
This is Super Direct. It's Direct Ultra.
You're right. It's a Super Ultra Direct Plus. Like it has to deliver on another level. It can't be like, hey, here's 5 minutes of indie titles. It's not going to work. They can't. That's not what this is for. That's what the Indie World Showcase is for. So. Yeah.
I think there'd be a few other things. I don't want to necessarily talk about things that would break the Direct because I don't think there really are any single things that would just
break
be like
the internet though, Brandon?
What?
3D Zelda teaser, something
True,
like that.
But that would break the internet in a good way.
Yeah, it would break. It wouldn't break the Direct. It would break the internet. Yeah. Exactly.
Other things that I'm worried about would be like if they announce it for a very high price. Say it's like $500. I think that would be a mistake. I don't think it would be a death sentence, but I definitely think it would be a big mistake and it would hurt sales.
Unless it's like a house.
Unless it also does your taxes.
Yeah, the Switch 2 can like do your taxes or like be your car or something. Like if it teleports you, it's like.
I think there's a few other things that I could see happening that would make me worried. Would be them showing off third-party games that looked kind of rough. Say if Monster Hunter Wilds shows up here and it's not looking too great, which is I'm kind of scared of just because that game in general on every platform doesn't seem to be very optimized. That one maybe not as much, but if we see something like Doom Eternal and it's like, oh, that looks clearly worse than the other versions, or it's only running at 30 FPS, that would be a big downer for Doom Eternal specifically.
I think there's going to be 30 FPS games.
I think there will definitely be 30 FPS games for third parties, but for a game like Doom Eternal, I do think they'll have 60 FPS in both modes.
They did it on Switch 1.
No, but Switch 1 was also just significantly weaker than the other systems that supported that game.
Does the Series S version have Doom at 60 FPS?
Oh, I'm sure it will. Doom is supposed to run at 60 on all platforms. The only reason it didn't on Switch is because that was never really a target platform.
Right. All right. I mean, yeah, I see what you're saying there.
Yeah. But for like Monster Hunter Wilds, yeah, that's probably going to be. Almost certainly it's going to be 30 FPS. I'm pretty sure even on Series S it's only 30 FPS. So it's not like I'm not saying there's going to be compromises. For sure there's going to be compromises, but if we see games like Doom Eternal and they are Doom. Sorry, Doom: The Dark Ages, and it looks like almost like a Switch version of, like in comparison. I think that would be disappointing because I do expect the versions of third parties to look a lot closer this time around, be a lot more impressive. I think that would be something that shows that third party support isn't going to be better than Switch, and it's still going to be just as hard to port. That would be something that would be disappointing. But you already kind of mentioned that in your little bad third party support or lack of third party support.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I was broad, right? But it like all the points you cover, like it's not just having the third-party games; it's the third-party games run well, right? Like,
if they announce that there's no, well, I guess not announcing that it won't be voice chat, but not announcing that there will, right?
Well, I mean, I think that ties into the second
deal.
point about just like clearly telling us everything about the console. Like, I hope they clearly illustrate, hey, voice chat is a standard now, right? Like, there are improved online features like that. That's going to be a big thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, yeah. So having that be there, especially, I mean, yeah, and them saying it is one thing, but also it just existing, is another, because we don't know that for sure. So
right.
if they don't talk about it and it's not another feature, that would also be like a big problem.
I think leave us with room for optimism, right? Like, don't I felt like some of these things we're not going to know. Like they may show us voice chat, but we're not going to know if it's going to be good voice chat until we get our hands on the system.
Yeah, fair.
Right. Like there is something like we're not going to know everything on April 2nd. We're going to know a lot, but we're not going to know everything. A lot of things we're going to figure out during the Switch 2 experience events. News is going to come out. We may hear from some devs. Like we're gonna learn stuff, right, as we approach the release date. And then when the console comes out, we're still gonna be learning about the system. There's gonna be different quirks and weird things and patches and all this stuff and data mines of the patches. And it's gonna be a learning process, right? But we're gonna get the biggest, strongest, influx of information on this console on April 2nd.
Yeah, for sure. I guess the only other thing I can think of that would be like really, really bad is if they announce some sort of like gimmick that like their games were trying to center around. Like something really like bad.
Quantum entanglement.
Ooh. Yeah, they got a quantum chip inside the dock in the Switch too.
Might actually be a good thing, but yeah. It allows you to teleport. It's gonna be even bigger than the PS2 DVD player.
Wow!
And for $500, you could teleport to wherever you want in the universe.
As long as there's another Switch 2.
Yeah, that good point. 2, you get it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Maki Mario asks me another thing. Nintendo never or rarely releases games at the end of the month, so earlier mid-June could be possible. Then there's Summer Games Fest. Nintendo loves Spotlight. Yeah, I want to take a look at some release dates, right? Like Xenoblade X is coming out March 20th, which is not that. It's not the end of the month, right?
No. It's closer to the middle of the month.
Yeah. But I do agree on the point of Spotlight. So it's kind of like is maybe the Switch 2 comes out. If the Switch 2 doesn't come out early June, then I can see early June is more believable to me than mid to late June.
Okay. I could, yeah.
Yeah.
I understand that.
Art Vandelay asks me, will there be a blended directs of both Switch 1 and Switch 2 titles?
Yes.
Well, I mean, if Metroid Prime 4 is in the Switch 2 Direct, in a sense, it's Switch 1 news because it's also coming to Switch 1. And,
I don't think it's going to be the same way that, like, the 3DS had its own, like, segment, right? It's just going to be, like, this game happens to be
coming to both platforms.
Yeah. It's because that was an annoying thing back in the day where it's like you had to wade through the 3DS segment. And I'm like, I don't have a 3DS anymore. I don't care about the 3DS anymore.
It's an interesting point because thanks to backwards compatibility and just how scalable games are now, having two different versions, but you can talk about it all at the same time. Like it doesn't have to be separate segments. That's a very good point. And so, yeah, I mean, there may not be any more like Switch One dedicated presentations, unless there's like one more surprise partner,
No,
like right
unless
before.
something, yeah, unless something happens before April 20 or April 2nd, I don't see any dedicated Switch One event happening after that.
Yeah, I don't want to say absolutely because there a lot of people have a Switch One, but well, I mean, the other thing is that like if they do want to make a Switch One related announcement, they know they have social media.
Yeah,
Like they could just be like, "Hey, this Kirby game's coming in 2 months. Have a good time." Like that, they could just drop a trailer whenever, and there you go.
yeah,
So I think social media announcements in conjunction with some cross generation titles will kind of cover it, right? Because if Metroid Prime 4 and say Fire Emblem Remake are each going to have Switch 2 enhanced versions, right? Then that's already 2 games that may come out this year for Switch 1, but would still be in major Switch 2 presentations.
right.
And then if they had just have a social media announcement for Kirby Planet Robot, we already have Pokemon that's already been made.
Yeah,
Like how much more do you really need to say?
Until Nintendo says otherwise, I am under the assumption that basically every game that comes out after the Switch 2 launches will have to have a Switch 2 version of some sort. Even if it's just a higher resolution cap, and that's all they do, and it's basically the exact same game otherwise. I feel like Nintendo will be like, you have to do something for the Switch 2 version. It can't just be the exact same game.
So remember how we recently learned about how the gold points program is ending March 24th.
Right.
Like after this point, no games you buy for Switch 1 can take advantage of this. Like what if that's just a
Right.
sign that hey, like yeah, like after March 20 after Xenoblade X, there just aren't going to be any other like it's all about Switch 2 after this point basically. Like it's very curious that this phases out right before the Switch 2 Direct.
It is weird because you think it would phase out like, when the Switch 2 came out. But maybe there's nothing really. Maybe there is no first party games happening between that time. Who
There
knows?
might not be. If I'm correct about the whole like May thing, like if Metroid Prime 4 is like in May, which by the way, when I say I'm correct, it's just an idea. I'm not even calling it a prediction. Like it's one of several possibilities that it's a talking point, right?
Yeah.
But like
it's a hypothesis.
Sure.
Maybe a theory.
It's one of a few theories. Let's call it that. But it's not like for example, I'm very gung ho about the Switch 2 May 15th release. Right? Like that's a theory of mine, and a theory that I'm like I'm like continually more and more believing.
60 to 70% confident, somewhere in that range.
I can't.
I'm pretty confident.
Yeah, like but
above
I can't
50-50.
I can't be that high, and I'm above 50.
No.
For the May 15th thing, but like I don't want to be like, oh,
it'd
this
be
is
50
like
to 60 instead of 60 to 70. It's not that much more above 50%.
Yeah. But like this Metro Prime 4 thing coming out in May, like it's not even close to like the same. It's below 50. It's below 50. In terms of confidence, I don't know.
Yeah.
But it would make sense though if it's tied to Switch 2, right? Like it comes out and it's in May. Like that is not that makes sense in terms of like gap of time that we have to wait here. Yeah, I mean it just kind of looks like we have all these signs that they are just closing down the Switch 1, closing down Switch 1.
Right.
So all right. I think I saw that audio stuff from earlier. I went back in time with the chat, so like now I'm kind of catching back up. Richie Jardine asks me, are they going to reveal the release date for Switch 2 on the 2nd of April? All right, so we were just kind of like talking about like our confidence of like our theories and stuff being 50, 60%. I'm going to tell you that I am at a 99% level of confidence that they will give us a release date for Switch 2 on April 2nd.
Oh, if they don't give us a release date, that is something that would ruin the direct.
Right. You know what? All right. I'm gonna scale back the percentage. I am 90% confident that they will give us a release date for Switch 2 on April 2nd.
Bro, I'm at least 95.
I'm gonna put 90 because weird stuff happens. But I'm very confident. I do believe that the Switch 2 release date will be given to us on April 2nd.
I don't think that they can't not give it to us. I mean, if you're gonna have like this whole like several months of, or well, more like just 2 or 3 months, anyways, multi-month events of showing off Switch 2, and people don't even know when it's coming out. They can't even pre-order it. Like, what? That wouldn't make any sense.
I don't know.
Hands-on events for a device you don't even know when it's releasing and can't buy, can't
All
pre-order.
right, so like, I could see a scenario where they are actually planning multiple preview phases, and it would be stupid, but stupid things happen. They have multiple preview phases, and they're just like coming out summer or coming out fall. And so like, I'm at 99% confidence that we are going to get some official perspective on release timing, right? I am at 90% confident that we will have an exact release date provided to us in the Switch 2 Direct. In short, yes, they're going to give us the release date on April 2nd. Like,
I think there's going to be the release date, and I think right after the event, pre-orders are going to open up, and or at least very shortly after, maybe a couple hours. Just same thing as after that January 12th, 13th, whenever that was in 2017, that event. Pre-orders were available in stores right after they opened. The very next day, very next morning.
I got another super chat here from Netweed. Thank you very much for the super chat, Netweed. Honestly, I look back at your Mario Odyssey clips and my jaw still hits the floor. Seeing that alone, I have no worries for Switch 2. Mario Odyssey.
I have zero worries for first party on Switch 2 for years and years to come. I'm sure they're going to be able to do amazing things.
Yeah.
Third parties, I'm a little bit more worried about. We'll see what happens, especially since, the next generation of consoles is coming in like 2 to 3 years. But, we'll wait and see what happens on that front. Hopefully NVIDIA's technologies can really help the Switch 2 stay in the game.
Bro, the Wii U came out in 2012. As far as I'm concerned, the Switch is basically that level of power, a little bit better, right?
I know it's like a Wii U Pro, basically.
Sure. Let's call it that, a Wii U Pro, if even. I think we're going to be, as Nintendo fans, we're going to be pretty good with the Switch 2.
We're going to be eating good on the first party side. Now, no doubt.
If you are a PC gamer, right, and you're like, hey, I'm not getting my 4K 60 games or 1440p 60, like, all right.
You're over here expecting path tracing or...
Right, like, I have a friend that, like, plays mostly on PC, and, like, he was playing Tears, and he's like, bro, I can't believe the game's only running at 30. This is ridiculous. And I'm like, there's no way that game's going to run on 60, run at 60 on the Switch. Heck, that game might not even run at 60 on a PS5. I don't know. Like,
you can run it on 60 if you overclock your Switch OLED. But that's a different story. That's only because the OLED's basically a Switch Pro that's underclocked.
Yeah.
I mean, basically, yeah.
Yeah.
But so is the battery saver, or better battery version of Switch.
Yeah. So I think we can wrap things up here. So last final questions or points you guys want us to talk about. This is like your 5-minute warning. Red Sea Gaming, big question is, how is Nintendo going to combat resellers and bots when it comes to pre-orders? They said they're going to deal with it, but how? Sign in your Nintendo account or sub to Switch Online? Well, one thing that they're on the record for saying is that they're going to try and make sure they just have a great high level of quantity. And I mean, that can help. Using Nintendo account online sign-ins, that could help too.
Yeah, I hope they do something like that.
Yeah. So those two different things can make for a difference there. I mean, I'm not sure what else.
Back
what
for
else
Switch 1, they did limit purchases to one per card. You could not pre-order a second Switch on the same card.
Interesting. Like online or like retailer?
At least in retailers. I don't know how that works online. I would hope it would be the same. And they could do something similar to that. I don't know. But yeah, when I went into GameStop, like they were like, no, you can't pre-order 2. I had to go like get a different credit card and send them the money. Well, I guess I didn't have to pay at the time, but I had to send the money later. And I had to bring that card to pick it up.
Yeah, I remember there was when Switch came out. I mean, I just pre-ordered it, right? I think it was, one per person, basically.
Yeah.
That's it, one per person. But, you could pre-order at more than one store.
Mm-hmm.
I had 2 pre-orders for Switch. Maybe, I mean, you can't really,
I had 2 pre-orders for Switch, but it was not for the same Switch. Like I was getting 2.
Yeah, I just went to 2 different stores because I didn't want to rely on one single pre-order because if one fell through, I wanted to have a backup plan.
Fair.
Which is what I probably will do this time too.
Although
I am not taking any chance.
I would hope it probably isn't gonna happen anymore because they don't do this as much anymore. But I would hope they do pre-orders like in stores because I do think that's the easiest way to get one. Because like when I went, I just went like an hour before they opened, stood in line. I was like the 8th person there, so like I was guaranteed to get one. I was like, there's no way I wasn't getting one, right?
Dude, whenever these launches happen, I'm always so nervous. I'm like, oh please, I have to get one. Like I'll have a pre-order, and I'm worried that there'll be some sort of miscalculation or some deadly squat, or I'll see all these people in line and be like, where are all these people?
That's why I don't want to do it online.
Don't get in the way.
There's one place I will never recommend you pre-order anything, and that is Amazon. Amazon is the worst. They will cancel your pre-order all the time.
Or that. Yeah.
And yeah, risk damage, delays, that happens a lot, yeah.
Right, bro. I mean, as a YouTuber, right? Like, me not being able to experience my Switch 2 day 1 immediately is a problem.
That is a problem,
right?
Yeah.
It is a problem, right? So if I rely on an Amazon shipment, like, oh, sorry, it's been delayed a few days, that is a huge freaking problem. Like, that is crazy, right? Like, just to put it into perspective, right? Like, will I survive? Yes, I will survive. But as a content creator, right? Like, I will need to, like, I'm gonna need to play, like, like that. Not having the perspective of having the console when it launches.
Yeah,
that's days of content that are going to be hampered. Well,
right.
It will be a problem. Is it a solvable problem? I'm sure it will be solvable, but it will be a terrible problem nonetheless. It will be a fire that it'll be several fires that will need to be put out. It's just not a
the
good
alarm
thing.
Bells will definitely be ringing.
Yeah. Taker610 with a super chat. Thank you for the super chat, Taker. When do we see Mercury Steam's next project on Switch 2? So they recently announced Blades of Fire, right?
Yeah.
That's coming to platforms later this year. I think it's coming out May 15th, actually. Interesting.
Is it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's definitely coming to Switch 2. Let's be honest. It's getting a Switch 2 version for sure.
It is another May 15th. No, it's a May 22nd release, actually.
Oh, okay.
May 22nd.
May 22nd, you say.
Yeah.
I just hear the echoes of Bo in the background. Oh.
I mean, it could maybe, right? Also, it could be May 22nd and still come out on Switch 2 a week into its lifespan.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but not counting this game, right? Like,
Hmm.
because I mean, I think there's a good chance it does come to Switch 2, just to clear Blades of Fire.
Yeah. I definitely
But
think it will.
but we directly mean like a Nintendo published title, right? Like
Right.
Metroid 2 or Metroid 6. Yeah, I think that's
3 years.
very likely to be in development.
I would
Yeah.
expect maybe 2 to 3 years from now, probably when we're gonna see that.
Yeah. Because I don't think they want to put it out. They're not going to put it in the same year as Metroid Prime 4.
No,
I really doubt that.
no, especially if they have Prime 2 and 3 remastered also on the way sometime this year.
I mean, maybe it could come out next year for 2026. Like, it's possible.
Maybe.
It's a very different styles of games. But also, like, what if there's like DLC for Metroid Prime 4 or something? Like, I can see them kind of intentionally, even if the game's completed, intentionally saving it just to kind of keep the Metroid train going in different ways.
Right.
So I'll say it's we see the next 2D Metroid in 2026 or 2027.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say 2027, 2028.
Okay.
I don't think it's gonna come out next year.
Okay. You know, the only reason I say the reason why I say I think in theory it could have been this year. Because you know, Mercury Steam worked on Samus Returns, came out 2017, then 2021 we had Metroid Dread. You know, give them our 4 years, you know, building off that engine, like
true.
Like
we don't know what part of the team, you know, they may have 2 teams. One that's working on this new game and one that's working on...
By the way, Metroid Dread is their most successful game by far, right? Like, so it's just kind of like why would they not continue? And also, why would Nintendo not want to continue with them? It's the best selling. Not only is it Mercury Steam's most successful game, I think it's like the most successful game developed in Spain ever. And I think it's also, I mean, it is literally currently the best selling Metroid game of all time. Like it's a lot of number ones, right? So it's just kind of hard to believe that they wouldn't be the ones to work on it, and it would be a real head scratcher if this has not been in development for a while already. I will also say that Nash Weedle, a leaker, right, or a rumor provider, has said that this is happening, that Metroid 6, right, is in development. So, and I think he even said that it's supposed to come out, that it could in theory have come out soon, but it may have been delayed for whatever reason. So it's rumored. It makes logical sense. But I do think we wait a little bit because we do have the Switch 2 and Metroid Prime 4 launch right now.
Sure.
How much longer they wait, we'll see.
Yeah. Well, you kind of persuaded me a little bit, so I'll add next year into the mix. Maybe next year or the year after. Maybe not all the way till 2028. It's like 26, 27 instead of 27, 28.
Counter argument. Look how long we waited for Mario Wonder and Echoes of Wisdom.
Hey, you shush.
It made sense to have follow-ups to those, and they took years.
Yeah.
So.
Those were kind of like in an interesting position where they wanted to change everything they were doing with the series at the time.
Yeah. I mean, we agree. It makes sense to follow up Metroid Dread relatively soon.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, they're already taking longer than maybe they should have, but circumstances. So, anyway, I think that is a good natural conclusion to tonight's discussion. Thank you, everyone, for coming by. I appreciate the likes. I appreciate the comments.
Yeah.
There will be another live stream on Thursday, and hopefully also next Tuesday, right? That is the plan. Videos will be coming. I got something probably Metroid related happening tomorrow, unless something again crazy happens that has me push up that project. But yeah, we're 22 days remain, and soon it'll be 21. So yeah. All right. Have a good night, everyone. See ya.
Bye, guys.